But hopeful?
Hopeful, but nervous.
Family members and supporters of Erik and Lyle Menendez, America's most famous convicted siblings, arrived in court this morning. But fireworks and flared tempers in and outside of court as their long-awaited resentencing hearing was delayed again.
Today was a little bit disappointing for us as a family.
The brothers' attorney, Mark Garagos, squaring off against the new Los Angeles District Attorney, Nathan Hochman.
The family does not want to go through this charade anymore with the DA.
In order for someone to be rehabilitated, they need to fully come clean with the entire breadth of their criminal conduct. In this case, the Menendez brothers, for the past 30 years, have not come clean.
The now middle-aged brothers have been in prison for more than 3 decades for the brutal murders of their parents in 1989. They had hoped this week to be granted a long-awaited chance at freedom. And last fall, it seemed the brothers were on the cusp of freedom under then-DA George Gascón.
I believe that the people that they were at age 19 and 21 is not the same people that we're seeing 35 years later.
But Gascón was voted out of office in November, and the newly elected DA Nathan Hochman has fought against the brothers' efforts for release. At the center of this latest showdown, a draft of a comprehensive risk assessment prepared by the California Parole Board.
Governor Newsom ordered the comprehensive risk assessment as a part of the petition for clemency. A comprehensive risk assessment is an assessment made by the parole board to evaluate whether or not an incarcerated person or persons is a danger to society as a whole.
The district attorney asking the judge to consider the assessment.
They prepared a report that analyzes their view of the comprehensive risk that the Menendez pose of potentially being a danger to society. So we wanted to make sure that the judge got a copy of that report.
If I was desperate and wanted to avoid the truth, I'd probably do the same thing.
The Menendez brothers had hoped the judge would reduce their sentence or re-sentence them for voluntary manslaughter. But now, a delay. The brothers due back in court next month. How big of a blow is this comprehensive risk assessment to the Menendez hopes of a quick release?
At the beginning, it seemed like they had a lot of energy. They were looking at the camera. They seemed to be really engaged in what was going on. By the end, they were slumped down, and they looked like they were a bit defeated.
The brothers sentenced to life without parole in 1995, years after blasting 13 shotgun rounds at their parents, Kitty and Jose, in their Beverly Hills home.
Erik and I killed our parents together, so I'd say that makes us pretty close.
Their story gaining renewed attention after last year's heavily dramatized Netflix series, Monsters.
And you were never to touch him. Not ever.
Actor Cooper Koch, who played Erik, showing up to court last week in support of the brothers. The show focused on the brothers' sexual abuse allegations against their father and also say they feared for their lives. It was a trauma barely understood at the time, but now being looked at through a modern lens. But the sympathy the show brought to the brothers has apparently not swayed the district attorney. He says he'll only reconsider pulling recommendation for their resentencing if the brothers admit what they did.
What would they actually have to do?
The essence of that checklist is that they'd have to finally admit after 30 years that they killed their parents willfully, deliberately, and in premeditated fashion, not because they believed that their parents were going to kill them that night.
Have you considered meeting with the brothers and speaking with them?
We certainly considered it. But in cases like this, we've been actually able to get their opinions. They've written letters, they've written declarations, they've given statements to the media. So we had the information to consider. And they've had, again, 30 years to come clean with all their criminal actions, and they haven't.
Hochman stresses that sex abuse was never their defense for murdering their parents.
During their testimony, when asked, did you kill your parents because they sexually abused you? Answer, no. We killed our parents because we believed they were going to kill us that night. So until they come to grips with the full breadth of all their lies, they have not been fully rehabilitated, and they continue to constitute an unreasonable risk of danger to society.
The LA District Attorney's arguments and position that the Menendez brothers should not be resentenced does carry with it a lot of weight.
Last week, Terry Menendez-Baralt, the 85-year-old sister of Jose Menendez, told me she's not giving up hope.
For everybody, this is a story. For me, it's very personal. Those kids, they are like the boys that I didn't have. So it's time. 35 years is a long time. It's a whole branch of my family erased. The ones that are gone and the ones that are still paying for it, which were kids.
The morning after our interview, graphic crime scene images were shown in court. The brothers' attorneys saying the images so distressed Terry, they landed her in the ICU. Battling colon cancer, she had flown with her chemo medication to attend the hearing. She is now in a nearby hotel, still recovering.
Are you concerned that you might not live to see the brothers released from prison?
It is a concern. I have tried to go see them as much as I can, but it's hard because I live in New Jersey and I'm 85. I don't have that much time. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't.
I've met numerous times with District Attorney Nathan Hochman, and again he says those two brothers, they shotgunned Kitty and Jose mercilessly and relentlessly, in the kneecaps, in the head.
They are truly, deeply sorry for what they did, and they are profoundly remorseful. They are filled with remorse over what they did. And through that, they have become pretty remarkable people.
Does anybody here have any doubt at this point that the brothers were sexually abused by their father?
No.
Did you know, Terry? Did you know what was going on in that house?
Who knows what's going on in the house unless you live there?
I vacuumed every day, and I couldn't vacuum past the bathroom in the hallway. The time I was there, which was quite a while, I never saw the kids' bedroom, their bedroom, or anything, because I wasn't allowed down the hallway.
Did anybody think this was weird?
I think there's a difference between thinking that something is weird and knowing that something is happening.
The family also pushing back on the new district attorney's claims.
He said that the brothers have made something like 24 or so lies that they haven't apologized for and have never admitted as lies.
I thought it was more
What
than
does
that.
he want
It was a big
as an apology? Does he want them in front of a TV crying and said, I am so sorry? Is that what he wants? Is that what he means?
I asked him that exactly. And I said, do you want them to apologize for these 24 separate things? Do you have a list? He said, in fact, I do.
I guess he should go back and watch the trials or read the transcripts because they were cross-examined on all of those.
It was all litigated.
And most of those lies they told when they were young and scared of the consequences for their actions that they have owned up to a million times, certainly to all of us, but also publicly.
The next hearing in their case is May 9th. Until then, the brothers and their supporters have no choice but to wait.
Well, today was a little bit disappointing for us as a family as we march on.
Unfortunately, for this family, there are no secrets. For this family, there's no floor on the amount of trauma that they have to go through.
If resentencing fails for the Menendez brothers, all hope is not lost. In fact, one of their strongest arguments for early release still exists, that clemency petition in front of the governor.